Good girl.
Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about slackline etiquette.
And to preface these rules or points, I just want to make it clear that there's so many exceptions to these points, and it's really dependent on your location and your local community, and there's just a lot of situational factors that can make this like an absolute rule, so to say, or something that is like maybe you could go without on this one. We're gonna start with some general slackline etiquette that's park specific, and to start it off, what do you think a good thing to start with when you show up to the slackline park or when you show up to the park and are trying to rig your slackline?
Yeah, I just think being mindful of all of the other people who aren't slacklining at the park is pretty huge, especially with longer lines. It's really easy to just take up a bunch of space, and you just want to be mindful that you're not interfering with anybody else that's doing whatever park activities that they're doing.
Yeah, I think especially because we need trees to do what we do. A lot of people, even that don't need trees, really are enjoying the shade that trees provide or such. And it's really common to obviously have someone that's having a picnic at the park or something. And maybe you can either find a spot that they're not already using, or at least just, before you set up your line and start commandeering their area. And it's as easy as just walking over to someone and just, hey, like, do you mind if I put a slack line here? And 99.9% of the time, they're going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
On the note of being courteous to other people in the park, that goes for like your slackline friends as well. And there's two things I can think of. One is if it's a trick line or a park line gathering, kind of like two different cases, it's generally nice to start with the line looser and slowly increase the tension throughout the duration that people or your friends are there. So like the people that are lighter can enjoy the line, and then slowly throughout X period of time, you increase the tension to where then like someone that's heavier like myself can then get on the line and not, touch the ground. And of course, when it's a heavier person like me, I'm always trying to crank the line, because it's really annoying if you're touching the ground. But it can be equally annoying for the lighter person if the line's just like super, super cranked.
Another thing to be mindful of is you are representing the whole broader slacklining community. And so things like drinking, smoking, loud music, dogs, anything like that is a reflection on our niche sport and the overall community. So you just want to be mindful of all of those things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that everywhere you're slacklining. And I guess this is one of the things that even extends outside of the park, and some highline areas are pretty public as well. And once again, like a location dependent thing, or cultural dependent thing. So many variables on this that can change how you should behave, but you are representative of a very small niche odd sport when you're setting up a slackline anywhere. And I guess that's a good transition to things that are a part of all lines, and whether it's in the park or not. And one thing that I certainly am guilty of and have been guilty of in the park, on Highline, etc., is just being a line hog. And this is like such a fun thing, but in the park it's harder to be a line hog. You really have to try for it, unless there's like one line and a bunch of homies. But especially like highlining, it can be really easy to take a long session.
Yeah, it depends, how many people are there, and I think just kind of like reading the room a little bit. And generally I feel like the rule is kind of like an hour is kind of pushing the highline sesh, but I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah.
But just trying to be mindful of other people, and spending 2 to 3 hours on the session is a long time.
Where is this is too long?
I even think an hour and a half is too long.
Yeah.
I'm like a 1 hour sesh. girl.
It's funny how dependent it is. I know so many people that would be like, I can sesh for 3 hours. And
Yeah.
sometimes
not
that,
like
once
that.
again, like, yeah, sometimes that's appropriate. And then sometimes when you have one line
Yeah.
and maybe you're at the freestyle spot,
Yeah.
or I know big lines have this problem too with line time.
Yeah.
Specifically freestyle and big line.
Yeah, I also feel like it's appropriate to let your friend know that they've been on for an hour and a half, because I feel like you can just lose track of time out there and suddenly you've been on there for an hour and a half and you're just not thinking about it. So
Yeah, a kind of hot take that I might have is, yeah, like you could sesh for all day if you want, but is that entire sesh productive and or like, you know, efficiently spent? Because if you're seshing all day, you're probably also spending so much time
yeah.
just resting, you know? Where if like everyone went out and like, of course there's a line to it, you know, but just like went go, 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 right? Like, let's say the extreme case, like if you just went hard on a slackline, like, or on a high line of whatever sort, whatever like hard is, you know, to you, for freestyle is what I'm thinking about, because this is just the most relevant to me right now. But
Yeah.
I could be like on the line for 15 minutes
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
no rest and then be cooked, you know. And of course that's like maybe not what everyone is looking to do. And but yeah.
It's always a good practice to leave things how you found it, especially when we're talking about life supporting gear. I think everyone would just appreciate that if you show up and something is a certain way, you should leave it how you found it.
Yeah, and I guess same for, you know, if it's a homie's rig in the park that you just showed up to, like,
Yeah.
you don't just go and crank it. And once again, I think this is something I've been guilty of too, being a heavier guy that is like, oh, I'm bottoming out, it needs more tension. Where
Yeah.
the correct thing is to go and say, hey, Heather, like, can I toss some tension on your line? And you will say,
Yeah.
yeah. Transitioning to highlining, what is some general highline etiquette that you can think of right off of the bat?
Some general highline etiquette. Always bringing tape, fixing tapes if you break them, and what am I forgetting?
I think those are two really, maybe same point, maybe different points, but a good place to start of like, yeah. And if you don't have tape, hopefully your homie does, you know, generally whoever rigged the line at least has tape. And if you break a tape, fix it. It's really annoying if you get off and then I'm like, hey Heather, like, go fix that for me, and it's fine, you know. And maybe if, you know, it's your homie and maybe I just said that like it is a big deal when it's really not, and that's fine. But it's pretty courteous if you're like, hey, can you toss me a tape and I'm gonna go fix that. And then to that, easier than going to grab a tape at the anchor, you can just bring tape out with you. Which is pretty common, like most people do, and I think most people have adopted putting tape on their harness, kind of pre-cut fiber tape is really awesome to have, especially if you're highlining frequently. Shout out Brianne, as an anchor activity for her has been just cutting fiber tape for not her, but little rolls to give other people, and she's like, clip this to your hangover. And then I guess to circle back to leave things how you found it, like if you break something, fix it. And that goes to a lot of things, even of course much greater than slacklines.
I always appreciate it when people leave the line flat, and I think that's a really good practice for all lines, but especially high lines.
I think that's probably the most neglected point that's been on the list so far. Yeah, and like obviously it's really nice when you get out on the line and it's completely flat, but it's also nice to leave your line like that because the wind can damage it. So you generally want to leave the line flat. Yeah. And then outside, I guess, of like, you know, and we chatted about how safety things can be a whole video, but both a line that is properly taped and untwisted, it just feels nicer. So like leave that for the next person. If that's what you got on, like untwist it, or even if it's not,
Yeah.
what you got on, like that's unfortunate. But leave something that's nice and not just a total, you know, candy cane for the next person to get on, whether that's just for not walking over a twisted line or bouncing on something that feels heavier because there's not like loops to dampen it, and just it's better.
Yeah. Another thing that I can think of is Highline days can be really long, and oftentimes people will be there from the morning till the evening, and showing up later after everything has already been rigged and people have been there all day and expecting to have a session is not the most ideal way to go about it. You know, if you've been in contact with the people that have been there, and that's a whole different story, but I think you can add to this as well.
This is like definitely one of those tough, like, exception situational ones where there's a lot of cases where, that can be okay. And there's a lot of cases where it's just like, you know, not to be an asshole, but like, dude, I rigged this. I've been waiting for my sesh. Like, I know you have to go soon is what you say also for X reason. But like, I've also been waiting for this and wouldn't like to be here till the sun sets, you know, and would like to get out of here too. So this one can be tough, and there's so many exceptions to where this is like, you know, can be annoying or can't, you know, is completely fine. And this, you know, it's your friends and you told them you were coming and this is the case, and or, you know, whatever other million reasons where that could be the case. But
that's a tough one.
But an easy kind of remedy, or like, I don't know, maybe this is something different, is just, you know, contributing in some way. And
or just like letting whoever's rig it is know, being in communication with them, bringing them something, being like, hey, I can't rig, but I'll show up with lunch, or hey, I'm not going to be there till 5, but I will bring some candy or something, you know. So at least like 2 things: 1, they're expecting you, and 2, you're bringing a gift, so they're going to be more inclined to let you sesh.
I bring you an offering.
So I don't know, that one's tricky, but I think just like always have in the back of your head, you know, sometimes you can't communicate with those people who are already at the rig, and oftentimes it's totally fine if you show up, and oftentimes you will get a sesh, but it's just something to think about, you know, if you are going to sesh later in the day, maybe not expecting to have that sesh.
This is, I feel like also maybe can be more of a problem at like very frequently seshed areas. Like I can think of a couple places where like, you know, this person or this crew is gonna be there every weekend. And like, because I know they're gonna be there, I'm gonna show up and hop on their line with no notice because I know there's gonna be a line up. And so maybe that'd be more of a situation where that's like more of like, hey, it would have been thoughtful if you just said, hey, can I come sesh? And the chances are like, yes is the answer. Like, like come sesh, here's when we're going. And then, sorry, I'm gonna digress from, like you said, like bring a, you know, a snack or something, which is great. But like, even if you're not late and you're showing up to go on a, you know, a project with a crew of people, and like maybe you didn't have gear to contribute or rigging experience, whatever it is, either just saying like, hey, can I carry this for you?
Goes a long way.
Or just bringing like a snack to share, whether that's, you know, a sweet treat or some cheese and crackers or whatever, and just being a vibe at the anchor. Like there's tons of ways to contribute. It doesn't need to be bringing like a, you know, a straight snack either or something like.
Yeah, I think all of those are some good general points, and I'm sure there's a ton that we missed. And like Davis said at the beginning of this video, there are many exceptions to all of these, and we're both guilty of probably all of these at some point or another, but it's just, you know, more things to keep in mind.
Yeah, hard to be perfect.
But I am. Just kidding.
You should let us know what Highline Etiquette tips or points, rules we missed.
Yeah, because I'm sure we missed some, and we would love to hear more.